This is A.T., and this is Joe Angelo, recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross that was for valor during the September 1918 Meuse-Argonne Offensive during World War I, the Great War. That was when he saved the life of the brigade colonel, George S. Patton. Patton, later during World War II, was the general who took command of the Third Army that drove through France and led to the rescue of United States soldiers during the Battle of the Bulge. And it proved decisive in the defeat of Germany. George Patton was made subject of several books and films, including the 1971 Patton, starring another George C. Scott. None of this would have happened without the quick, decisive action taken by Joe Angelo during that World War I Meuse-Argonne battle. That was on a crisp September morning, 1918. Patton's tank unit was under heavy machine gun and artillery fire. Patton ordered Angelo to find 15 or so men, then head uphill to take out a couple of German machine gun nests. Angelo reported back to Colonel Patton that the 15 men were dead. Patton then ordered Angelo to accompany him, Patton, alone up the hill. When they got about 30 yards, Patton was felled by a bullet in his thigh. Angelo dragged Colonel Patton into a shell hole and then bandaged the wound and waited until Colonel Patton came fully to his senses. That was about 2 hours. Patton was then able, with Angelo's help, to communicate with the rest of the unit, after which Angelo got 4 men to remove Patton to the rear. Patton later said Angelo was, and I'm quoting Patton, without a doubt, the bravest man in the American Army. By November of 1918, World War I was over. Meanwhile, during the 1920s, the U.S. economy would blaze white hot and then implode, beginning with the stock market crash of 1929. By the end of 1931, during the last months of Herbert Hoover's administration, unemployment and overall economic stagnation reached such a point where even a communist revolution appeared possible. It was in this context that an unemployed and desperate Joe Angelo joined what were known as the Bonus Marchers, who had set up camps in the nation's capital and demanded immediate payment of a promised bonus that was to be awarded for their military service during World War I. It had been scheduled to be paid out in 1945, but they needed it now. President Hoover, facing a possible insurrection, with Congress having deserted him, and the former soldiers building camps around Washington, D.C., Hoover was getting little support from the D.C. police chief, himself a former World War I general, sympathetic to the Bonus Marchers. So finally, out of desperation, President Hoover ordered 700 mounted Army soldiers to drive out the veterans and their families. These soldiers were commanded by General Douglas MacArthur, and MacArthur had 2 aides. One was Dwight D. Eisenhower, and the other, George S. Patton. The soldiers burned the camps, including one owned by Joe Angelo. According to several sources, the last words from Patton to Angelo were these: "I do not know this man. Take him away, and under no circumstances permit him to return." Well, that's a horrendous story, but there's more. Patton, during the decade after World War I, had in fact kept in contact with and supported Angelo. He gave him money, and he supported several of Angelo's businesses. Oh, and one final note. The World War I veterans did get their bonus money in 1936, which happened to be, coincidentally, an election year. This is E.T. Did you enjoy this story? If so, share it on social media and hit the thumbs up icon. Subscribe to this channel, tap the bell icon to be notified of new uploads. Thank you.